seems like one of the biggest mysteries today is how to answer the question, what is a woman? It seems like this question is on everybody's minds. And the real question is, why did this become such a big mystery? In this video, I'm going to do my best to give you the psychological and archetypal answer of what positive femininity really looks like. If you're new here, my name is Roni, and on this channel, we dive deep into human nature to help us become everything we're meant to be. In this video, I'm going to cover the two major archetypes of positive femininity, the maiden and the mother. I'll talk about the transition from maiden to mother, and I'll talk about the hero's journey a woman faces in each one of these life stages. If you want to find out what it really means to be a woman, then this video is for you. Let's get started. Now, before we dive into the archetypes, let me just give you the essence of femininity. Erich Neumann wrote exactly on this topic in his masterpiece, The Great Mother. In it, he describes the two characteristics of the feminine, containment and transformation. He describes the containment aspect like this. It is the foundation of that conservative, stable, and unchanging part of the feminine which predominates in motherhood. As the great round, the great container, it tends to hold fast to everything that springs from it and to surround it like an eternal substance. This is the aspect of femininity that nurtures and protects. This is Mother Nature, from which all things grow and in which all things are contained. Woman is the vessel, the container, the warm hug that envelops you, keeping you loved and safe. The containment aspect is also what we might call receptivity. Just as the woman receives the man, so does the egg receive the sperm. And in the very same way, the seed is planted in the soil of Mother Nature. The second aspect is transformation. Neumann describes the transformative aspect like this. In the transformative character, the accent is on the dynamic element of the psyche, which, in contrast to the conservative tendency of the containment character, drives toward motion, change, and in a word, transformation. The woman experiences her transformative character naturally and unreflectingly in pregnancy, in her relation to the growth of her child, and in childbearing. Here, woman is the organ and instrument of the transformation of both her own structure and that of the child within her and outside her. This is the power that a woman has to transform a seed into human life. Women experience this transformative energy naturally when they become pregnant, feeling their child grow within them, and when they give birth. Their own bodies transform right before their eyes. The transformative character also has to do with the natural hormonal transformations that a woman goes through when she gets her first period and when she later goes through menopause. Even the cyclical nature of women's hormones throughout the month are transformative. And no doubt, you know what I mean. We become completely different people depending on the week. Another element of the transformative character is a woman's ability to transform blood into nourishing breast milk. Now, containment and transformation are not necessarily separate. Often they intertwine. Think of it this way. When a woman breastfeeds, she's keeping her baby alive, but also helping it grow. Neumann describes this beautifully. The function of feeding may be ascribed either to the containing or the transformative character, according to whether the accent lies on the tendency to preserve what exists or the tendency toward amplification and change. In other words, the two characters are not antithetical from the very start, but interpenetrate and combine with one another in many ways. And lastly, a woman can inspire a boy to become a man, and she can inspire a man to transform into the best version of himself. The male experiences this aspect of the feminine directly and indirectly as provocative, as a force that sets him in motion and impels him toward change. Now, you might have heard that the feminine is associated with the unconscious or with chaos, and this is exactly because of these natural energies of transformation. Nature operates unconsciously, without any need for conscious control. The mystery of pregnancy is a black box in a sense. It's a natural process that happens unconsciously, and from within the chaos of potential, a woman is able to bring life into the world. In our modern world, we foolishly undervalue this incredible, awe-inspiring feminine force. Now let's talk about the maiden. The maiden symbolizes youth, fertility, and beauty. She's the girl who has recently transformed into a young woman and has begun attracting the attention of men. Evolutionarily speaking, this is the point where a woman becomes sexually attractive due to her fertility, youth, and health. The maiden is often symbolized as a blossoming fruit, which points to her transformation to a young fertile woman, and also to the temporary nature of the stage. The maiden is often characterized as the virgin, which symbolizes a woman's role as the gatekeeper. In terms of evolution, sexual selection was in great part driven by women selecting men. Because women bear a greater burden during reproduction, their choice of a mate who will protect and provide for her is of the utmost importance. Not only that, but the fact that historically men could never be sure that the child was theirs made the archetype of the virgin even more enticing. Now, the sexual selection of women is one of the greatest motivators that push men forward. In order to become sexually attractive to a woman, a man would have to acquire status in some way and become physically formidable. He would have to embody the spirit of generous productivity. In order to win the woman of his dreams, a man had to prove that he was able to protect her and provide for her, especially when she was in her most vulnerable stage of pregnancy and caring for young infants. The perfect archetype for a healthy maiden story is the Beauty and the Beast. You can think of this story as a woman's hero's journey. Symbolically speaking, a young man's imperative is to venture out into the world, slay his dragon, and win the virgin and the gold. In other words, he must leave the comforts of his parents' home and venture out into the world. There, he must overcome challenges and accomplish difficult feats, a process that transforms him into a resilient, capable man. Slaying the dragon also means overcoming his own internal demons. If he does these things well, life rewards him with a good woman and hopefully a good living. But a woman's task is different, and it's not well known in our culture today. The best modern depiction of this story is the Beauty and the Beast. Belle is a young, beautiful, and intelligent woman. She is a woman of substance, and she has the power of discernment. Discernment is a critical quality for the maiden archetype. Belle is able to discern that Gaston, the bombastic, narcissistic fuckboy character, is not a man of substance. She ignores his pursuits, even while all the other girls are swooning over him. A maiden who doesn't have the power of discernment will get herself in a lot of trouble with these narcissistic types. Then when Belle meets the Beast, she is able to see the good in him. She is able to see behind the aggressive facade that there is a good, virtuous man in there, and she's able to accomplish the final task of the maiden, bringing out the prince from the beast. She does this in several ways. One is through her tender love and patience. Another is through her protests at his aggressive behavior. She tames the beast in him, so to speak. She's no pushover, and at the same time, she's able to maintain that nurturing, feminine side. This is the woman's hero's journey. For one, she's able to find a good man who is strong enough to be a beast when he needs to be, and is able to protect and provide for her. And second, she inspires him to become the best version of himself. Her love literally transforms him. This inspirational aspect of the maiden is also symbolized by the muse. A woman has the ability to inspire a man to transform himself. She's able to transform a man's sexual desire into productive energy and creative pursuits. The muse is the power of a woman to help the man bring out the best of himself. The admiration that she shows him pushes him to become the best version of himself. He becomes so mesmerized and inspired by her beauty and charm that he pushes himself to even greater heights. And often, this energy that she creates bring him unexpected insights and creative breakthroughs. The muse is a powerful energy and needs to be used wisely. Sometimes, the muse can move mountains, having unintended consequences. One historical example is Helen of Troy. She was so beautiful and so captivating that an entire country went to war to win her back. Men died so their prince could get her back. Never underestimate the power of the muse. Feminists would no doubt protest that I'm making this all about the man, and a woman can also be productive and creative in this world. Of course she can, And this is what it means to become a woman of substance and to develop one's power of discernment. But what is all that work and intelligence good for if a woman ends up alone? You can yell all day long that you don't need a man, but you can't fool me. I know that as soon as the day ends, that gnawing loneliness creeps in. So yes, by all means, work, study, and develop yourself, but don't do it at the expense of true human connection and love. And don't do it at the expense of your own feminine nature. Now back to the maiden. At this stage of a girl's life, her main focus is to find love. That is, if she is in touch with her femininity and doesn't try to deny it. A brilliant neuroscientist named Luann Brazendine wrote an excellent book on the female brain and its development throughout a woman's life. This is how she explains this stage of development. Teen girls' brains undergo a surge of estrogen and oxytocin during puberty, heightening their focus on romantic attraction and emotional connection, often with boys. Whether you like it or not, agree or disagree, this is human nature. If a woman wants to go through the stage of development in a healthy manner, she must organize her life in a way that will help her find a good and virtuous man. The emphasis here is not to run after men desperately, and it doesn't mean a woman should bend and mold herself into what she thinks men want. What it does mean is becoming a woman with her own identity, a woman of character, not an empty shell who goes along with whatever everyone else does and what everyone else thinks. This is the stage of a woman's life when she needs to truly find herself and get clear on her values. If a woman during this time focuses on bettering herself and getting her life in order, she is much more likely to attract a good man. There's one thing that's often skipped when talking about what men are looking for in a woman. We often hear that men are only looking for youth and beauty. First of all, this dry, evolutionary psychology type of analysis makes men seem shallow. Human psychology is far richer and deeper than these evolutionary and game-theoretic frameworks. And second, it sends the message to women that their only source of value is how beautiful they are and how close they are to their expiration date. The thing that's almost always overlooked is the fact that men are looking for health. Yes, even evolutionarily speaking, men wanted a woman who can bear and raise healthy children. Yes, youth and beauty are markers of a woman's fertility, but health is no less important, and health can be signaled in many different ways. No matter what looks a woman was born with, if she takes care of her physical health by working out and eating well, she will instantly make herself more attractive. Perhaps even more important, a woman can take care of her emotional and psychological health. Carl Jung calls this psychic hygiene, which I really love. Many men today are weary of ending up with a woman who isn't emotionally stable. Quite a few men have been burned by emotionally volatile women, and some have had their hearts completely broken by these types of women. The more a woman can work on her own demons and become more balanced mentally, the more attractive she will be, especially to healthy men. Today, women have been trained to focus only on their careers during this stage, but really, whether consciously or unconsciously, they are obsessed with finding a man. They go on dates and often go along with hookup culture just to satisfy that inherent need for an intimate bond with a man, and they're usually left disappointed. But focusing on finding a relationship doesn't mean a woman can't work or study. A woman who's interesting and passionate about something can be even more attractive. But a complete focus on your career while defiantly rejecting your need for a man isn't helpful. Another aspect of the maiden archetype is the lover. The emphasis on the maiden's fertility and attractiveness is obviously tied in with everything sexual and sensual. The lover is joyous, playful, and is able to see the beauty in all things. She's able to relate to a man, to make him feel seen, and to see the beauty in him. In terms of Greek and Roman mythology, this would be Aphrodite and Venus. These goddesses were the archetypal lovers who symbolized beauty, sexuality, and sensuality. The famous depiction of Venus on the half shell, naked, coming out of the water, is exactly this young, beautiful, sexual energy that grasps your attention without fail. In her book, Goddesses in Every Woman, Jean Shinoda Bolen describes Aphrodite like this. In relationships, Aphrodite's presence intensifies the bond, creating a golden light where two people feel more attractive, vibrant, and godlike than their ordinary selves. This is the energy of the lover. A woman who can tap into this energy can create a space where both her and her man feel loved and seen. And most importantly, together in their bond, they both feel the most alive they've ever felt. Now, even when a woman grows older, she can and should maintain and nurture this archetypal maiden within her through the energy of the lover. Same goes for the energy of the muse. This is the grandmother who can engage in childlike playful teasing with her husband. And this is the old woman who still inspires her man to be the best version of himself and paints his life with meaning. It is a sad day when a woman loses touch with one of her greatest feminine powers. Even if youth and beauty fade, this archetypal energy is always there, if you know where to look. Now for the mother archetype. Oh, the mother, the great mother, mommy dearest. How many of us know all too well what a mother's love can do, and what can happen if it's not there? There is nothing more life-giving and sustaining than a mother's love. So many of us today are just dying for a hug, that motherly hug that we didn't get in our childhood. To know that we are loved and that we are lovable. A mother's love is essential for the healthy development of a child into an emotionally stable, joyous, fulfilled human being who is themselves capable of love. In order for a woman to experience the stage of motherhood as fulfilling, she must have a positive relationship towards the great mother. Obviously, in most women, this relationship is unconscious, but it's important all the same. Erich Neumann describes it like this. For women, the positive bond to the great mother is also always the prerequisite psychologically for becoming a mother, for being fertile, and for having a healthy relationship to her own body and to the earth. On the other hand, being estranged from the great mother leads to the inability to develop the maternal and fruitful qualities of her feminine nature, and consequently to the typical symptoms of hysteria, of estrangement from the body, indeed, even of sterility. Not only does a woman's attitude to the great mother affect her own experience, but it will greatly affect the experience of her children. We'll get more into the negative consequences of a neglectful mother later on. One great book that talks about why mothers are so essential is called Being There, Why Prioritizing Motherhood in the First 3 Years Matters, written by Erika Commissar. In this book, she lays out the undeniable fact that a mother's presence in the early years completely transforms her child's trajectory in life. Here's what she writes. A mother's presence and attachment to her baby in the first 3 years of life are critical for the development of the social part of the baby's brain and for the ability of the baby to cope with stress. It is through this attachment to his mother that a child develops his beliefs about whether others can be trusted to be caring and loving, and whether he is valuable and worthy of being cared for. The thing is, babies are born half-baked, so to speak, meaning they have an underdeveloped nervous system. In the early years of life, their nervous system goes through massive change and growth. These time periods of rapid growth and brain plasticity are what are called critical windows. Here's another quote from Erika. The first 3 years of your child's life are a critical window in which to develop your baby's right brain and nurture her emotional health and social development through attachment, play, and nonverbal communication. If a child doesn't have his mother's presence and love in those early years, his social skills, emotion regulation, and ability to cope with stress seriously suffer. Donald Winnicott describes this process as the holding environment that a mother creates for a baby. He describes it like this. You will see that a great deal that a mother does with an infant could be called holding. Not only is actual holding very important and a delicate matter that can only be delicately done by the right people, but also much of infant nurture is an ever-widening interpretation of the word holding. Holding comes to include all physical management, insofar as it is done in adaptation to an infant's needs. Gradually, a child values, being let go. This holding and letting go is exactly those aspects of containment and transformation of the feminine. A mother's attunement to her baby's needs is critical for the healthy development of the child, and knowing when to let go is no less important, but we'll get to that. Consistent mothering during the early years can have a huge impact. For instance, some children are more likely to develop mental health issues due to their genes. But here's the crazy part. Erich Neumann writes, sensitive and consistent maternal nurturing can change the outcome for a child who has a genetic predisposition for mental health issues. The emotions of these sensitive children are closer to the surface and the reactions are more intense. They may be more sensitive to noise and overstimulation as well as understimulation. They are less easily soothed and may be labeled as having colic when they are infants and called difficult as toddlers, as they may be prone to tantrums or inconsolable distress. These children may have as good a chance of growing up emotionally healthy as a child without this genetic profile if they receive sensitive maternal nurturing in their early years. A mother's love can literally heal a child, change the course of his genetic expression, and protect him from future mental illness. This stage of a woman's life doesn't only transform her children, but she herself is transformed. Once a woman gets pregnant, her psychology begins to change. Her priorities shift as she becomes more aware of the life that's growing inside of her. This is the stage when most women are overwhelmed by a sudden and urgent need to nest. Once she gives birth, she becomes consumed by the needs of her child. This brings with it the obvious stress and exhaustion of sleepless nights and endless demands of a growing infant, and also the overwhelming love she feels for her child. Many women are surprised by how other cares and interests fade into the background during the stage. The key here is that whether a woman expects it or not, she will become a new person once she enters this stage of her life. On a physical level, pregnancy and motherhood completely change a woman's hormonal and neural chemistry. In her book, The Female Brain, Louanne Brazendine writes the following. The pituitary gland produces hormones of fertility, milk production, and nurturing behavior. These hormones activate the mommy brain, deeply influencing maternal instincts and attachment. During pregnancy, massive increases in progesterone and estrogen calm the mother's stress circuits, helping her brain adapt to care for the developing fetus and prepare for the demands of motherhood. Breastfeeding releases oxytocin, that cuddly, nurturing hormone. This strengthens the bond between mother and infant, while also calming the mother's stress responses. The transformation from maiden to mother isn't only in her head, so to speak. The changes that she undergoes on the physical, psychological, and neurological level are profound. The Greek goddess who represents this mother archetype is Demeter. She was the goddess of the harvest, who provided nourishment for those who pray to her. A woman who embodies this archetype has an aura of the Earth Mother about her. Jean Shinoda Boland describes her like this. Demeter is the maternal archetype, representing maternal instinct fulfilled through providing physical, psychological, or spiritual nourishment to others. The mother archetype motivates women to nurture others, to be generous and giving, and to find satisfaction as caretakers and providers. Generosity is a core trait of Demeter, seen in her role as the goddess who gifted humanity with agriculture and harvests. This maternal energy can be felt on every level. A woman who can access this energy is able to extend her maternal energy beyond her children, providing physical and emotional nourishment to everyone around her. One classic story in Greek mythology is the close bond that Demeter had with her daughter Persephone. In one tale, Persephone is abducted by Hades into the underworld. Demeter becomes depressed, like any mother whose child is in trouble or suffering. As the saying goes, a mother is only as happy as her least happy child. Demeter then goes to protest to Zeus and demand that he help her free Persephone from the underworld. This mama bear energy is a feeling that all mothers know all too well. A mother will often find newfound strength within her when it comes to protecting her child's well-being. Just as the maiden has her own hero's journey, so too does the mother. A mother's task is to raise her child and then let him go. This might sound simple, but this is arguably one of the most difficult tasks that a woman will ever experience. When her baby is first born, he is completely dependent on her love and care. As the child grows, a mother's task is to allow her child to widen his sphere of independence. An overprotective helicopter mom, for instance, stifles her child's growth and keeps him dependent on her past the age that's healthy. But a mother who allows her child to explore the world allows her child to grow into a healthy, independent adult with an internal sense of security and self-worth. This is one of the most difficult tasks for a mother, because to allow her child to be independent is to expose him to the potential dangers of the world. One classic representation of this archetype is the Virgin Mary. Among many other things, the depictions of the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus represented the mother-infant dyad. She represents the sacred nature of motherhood and the bond between mother and child. And yet, even the Virgin Mary had to let her child grow up and face his fate. A wonderful depiction of this is the Pieta, representing a mother's ultimate task of offering her child to the world. Now, for some god-awful reason, we've been busy devaluing motherhood, as if it's not a respectable endeavor, as if a woman who chooses to focus on motherhood is in some way weak or giving up on herself. Here's what Erica has to say about this. At some point, women who loved nurturing their children and saw it as a great contribution to society and a meaningful pursuit in life were told they were not modern, not feminist, not cool if they chose to stay home with their children. Instead of showing respect and admiration for mothers who chose raising a family as their meaningful work, society rejected these women and the meaning of their work. Even their spouses questioned the value of mothering. The thing is, this negative messaging towards motherhood has been around for a while, and today it's cemented itself into our culture, and it's had devastating mental health consequences. Young women consistently get the message that to become a mother is to lower themselves in society. We can already see this anti-mother attitude in Simone de Beauvoir's 1949 book, The Second Sex. Here's what she writes. To become a mother means to accept the physical, psychological, and social burdens of maternity, which can confine a woman to a secondary status, effectively limiting her opportunities for self-development and independence. Now, another thing you hear is all sorts of crazy feminists today saying that there's no such thing as a maternal instinct, as if it's a lie invented by the evil patriarchy to keep women down. Honestly, I don't even know how to begin to explain how wrong this is, but I'll take a crack at it anyway. The maternal instinct is hardwired into women through millions of years of evolution. You can already see the maternal instinct play out in the games of young girls. From a very young age, most girls are much more likely to play with dolls, pretending that they are caring for an infant. Most girls are found to help their mothers with their younger siblings much more often and in a more sensitive manner than boys would. This maternal instinct, if you will, is present from the earliest ages of a woman's life. There is quite obviously an evolutionary reason behind this instinct. In her book Warriors and Worriers, Joyce Benenson describes it like this. The behaviors of girls practicing caring for vulnerable individuals is found in most mammalian species. It is not hard to believe that there is some innate basis for girls' greater interest in vulnerable creatures, particularly babies. A mother who found babies appealing likely would be more likely to keep her own baby alive than a mother who found babies unattractive. When I hear a woman saying that there's no such thing as a maternal instinct, what I can be sure of is that she has no maternal instinct. More accurately, that kind of woman is completely disconnected from the archetype of the mother within her. She doesn't have access to that maternal energy. She's either repressed it or she herself never received that maternal love. Let me give you an example. There was a study done on little mother mice and their babies, which are called pups. What a normal mother mouse does is lick her pups, which is crucial for the development of their stress and immune system. Now here's the thing. They took a group of female pups and separated them from their mothers too early. What they found was that when those separated female pups became mothers themselves, they didn't lick their own pups. They never learned that behavior from their own mothers. Not only that, but being separated early on from their mothers meant they had less oxytocin receptors in their bonding system and higher stress response and inflammation overall. And so the cycle continued. Sound familiar? What this means is that within all mammalian species, including us humans, the lack of maternal love disconnects a woman from her own maternal energy. Another way this manifests is when such women get pregnant. A woman who has a negative attitude towards the mother archetype within her will experience her pregnancy as an invasion. Many such women describe the child growing inside of them as a parasite. This was the messaging that was consistently pushed by the feminists of the 70s. If you don't believe me, here's one quote from Shulamit Firestone in her book, The Dialectic of Sex. "Pregnancy is barbaric. It is the temporary deformation of the body of the individual for the sake of the species. Moreover, childbirth hurts and it isn't good for you." What a toxic message to send young women. Yes, pregnancy and motherhood are difficult endeavors, but a woman who wants to be a mother and who looks forward to the experience of growing a life within her will have a completely different experience. The thing is that when a woman who has a negative attitude towards motherhood, this can have serious complications during pregnancy and after birth. Esther Harding is a brilliant neo-Jungian who wrote extensively on feminine psychology. In her book, The Way of All Women, she writes the following: "When a woman resents her pregnancy, she is very apt to suffer from various disorders, as vomiting or a threatened miscarriage, which are, at least in part, the result of her psychological attitude. If she can be made aware of the nature of her resistances and can recognize that her pregnancy is the fulfillment of her own fate, belonging to her and not forced upon her, the symptoms usually clear up and do not return." We have to change the narrative around motherhood. When a woman embraces motherhood, it completely transforms her life and the lives of her children. Ultimately, women who divorce themselves from the mother archetypes are doing violence to their own feminine being. Women who say they never want to have children may really mean it on a conscious level, but on an unconscious level, their entire being feels like something's missing, like there's a huge lack that they don't know how to fill. And sometimes they misdirect that maternal energy where it doesn't belong, which I talk about in my video on toxic femininity. Now, another place that maternal energy is seriously lacking today is within romantic relationships. First of all, young women who are dating today think that men are only interested in them sexually. But really, a good man is also looking for a woman with a healthy maternal instinct. He's looking for a woman who has that maternal energy about her, because unconsciously, he's looking for a woman he can trust to be the mother of his children. And he's looking for a woman who can provide him with that maternal energy. You hear women complaining today that they don't want to be their husband's mommy. What they don't want is to be married to a man who needs every aspect of his life managed and taken care of. That's fair, but that stereotype has made women think that they're not supposed to show any maternal energy towards their husband, as if their relationship should only be based on romantic desire and passion, or just a stale partnership. And whenever that passion is either gone or ebbs and flows, they think that the love is gone. But here's the thing. Men are looking for that maternal energy from their woman. They're craving it. That caring, loving, enveloping energy. That softness. That feeling of being accepted and of feeling seen. And of being lovable. That's one gift a woman can give a man if she knows how to tap into the mother archetype. That nurturing energy is one of the things that solidifies the bond, even if passion isn't quite there anymore. So enough with that "I don't want to be his mommy" crap. When a relationship is at its healthiest, we are both each other's parents, lovers, and best friends. I'll have more to say about this in a future video on attachment theory, but for now, I want to leave you with this. The mother archetype in a woman is so much more than the actual act of being a mother. A woman's maternal energy radiates in whatever she does. That maternal energy is one of the greatest feminine powers that a woman has. To embrace your femininity means becoming comfortable with this mother archetype, as well as integrating the maiden archetype within ourselves. When a woman embraces her femininity, she embarks on the two greatest heroes' journeys of each of these stages, with open arms and an open heart. In our crazy world today, most people have no idea what femininity actually is. Femininity is an incredible, life-giving force that our society desperately lacks today. Women are praised and empowered only when they act like men and suppress their femininity. But it's time we got clear about what the powers of femininity are and how we can embrace and develop them. I hope this journey from the maiden to the mother has helped you make sense of the archetype of the feminine and has helped answer the question, what is a woman? Beyond these archetypes, we also have the transition to the matriarch, which I'll hopefully cover in a future video. If you enjoyed this video, please share your thoughts in the comments and tell me what resonated with you most. I really love hearing from you. And please take a moment to subscribe because it helps the channel grow more than you know. Till next time, guys.